like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right. Hey, folks. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation over the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That's right. That will get you into the studio for two-way talk and conversation today behind the glass back at HQ's line of the board, and he'll get you set up. Don't forget our text line at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. That appears on the screen here in the real time in the studio. We try to work it into the conversation. The station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, so that means you can take us anywhere. And if you have that Alexa thing in your house, you can tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked, as well. I do stream the show, and I'm coming from the Cameo Studios now, so the Cameo Kim's on if you want to watch and listen on Face or X, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble. We do stream live to the Rumble channel, also the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel. So many ways to watch, many ways to listen. As always, we've got a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. And just before, and I'm sure most of you or some of you were tuned into this, and just before coming on, the Senate passed the 3XB, big, beautiful bill. That's right. But, of course, changes made, so it has to go back to the House and all. But the Senate passed it in a nail-biting 50-50 vote. So, of course, J.D. Vance had to step in for tiebreaker, casting the tie-breaking vote to secure that passage. And this followed a marathon 24-hour vote-a-rama session that went on, the longest in history. And that surpassed the 2008 record with 45 amendment votes as Republicans scrambled to unify their narrow 53-47 majority. Now, the other part of this is Schumer, who demanded, right, that we read this thing out. I'm actually not upset at that. I mean, I think that all the bills should have to be read out for a couple of reasons. It might slow the process here, right? Tie them up for a little bit. And, you know, be in the Senate chamber where you're supposed to be paid, getting to be paid to be. But also, pretty confident that like 99% of these senators don't ever read every word of a bill. Do you really think they do? Right? The majority of the time, we know what happens. They're told by their party, hey, you're gonna vote this way. This is how the caucus is voting. This is how we're voting on this particular thing. So I think reading the bill is actually a pretty good idea. I think all bills should have to be read in the chamber. Now, they're not going to be 400 or 940 pages, but I think it's a good idea. I think it's a very good idea that the bill is read, and everybody, at least if you want to, sit there at C-SPAN or whatever it is, you can hear what's in the bill. So, good, Chuck. Thank you for that. But John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, he hailed it as a major victory. Well, Trump called it a great victory on Truth Social. Some holdouts, right? Rick Scott, Mike Lee, they flipped the yes, so that was good. So 940-page bill. And the biggest thing here is it's going to extend those 2017 tax cuts set to expire this year. Now, a $4 trillion worth of tax breaks, and this includes the no tax on tips provision and deductions for the overtime and car loan interest expiring in 28. There's a lot of things in this. And if this can get through the House, which now it has to do that, right? It has to go back to the House, see if they can get it through the House, then Yeah, of course, Trump will sign it. I mean, basically immediately, but it's not the same version. You know this, right? It's not the same version the House sent over. So you got to see what they do in the House. They could really mess this thing up, right? We don't know what they're going to do in the House. That's always the sad part of that. Now, 3 Republicans, Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, Susan Collins, they voted no. With Tillis, he's citing devastating Medicaid cuts for North Carolina, and Paul slamming the bill's $3.3 trillion debt increase. Okay. I think you have to always look at this stuff at the overall good or bad that it's going to do, because also if the bill stimulates growth, again, I've talked about this. Jerry Doherty's talked about this. Mike Wade has. Peter Ballou has. We've all talked about the fact that we don't have a revenue issue, folks. Right? We have a spending issue. But the revenue's there, and when we stimulate the economy, right, gas has dropped again. I don't know if you caught that. Depends what news outlets you watch, whether you find out that gas has significantly dropped again or not, right? Stock market hitting records, right? Kramer and all those jamokes are talking about, the recession's being escorted in now because of these tariffs. $88 billion, $90 billion has been brought in from the tariffs, but no inflation. Now, holdouts, Murkowski, right? Lisa Murkowski, Rich Scott, Mike Lee, and Cynthia Lummis, they were won over with concessions. What were the concessions? $25 billion rural hospital fund and a temporary state and local, or SALT, as we call it, deduction. Hiked it to 40 G's. Trump lashed out at Tills and Paul's on Truth Social, threatening to back primary challenges against Tillis in 26. So we'll see what happens there. Democratic opposition and tactics. Well, back to Chuck Schumer, right? He forced that 12-hour reading. Good. Of the 940-page bill to delay passage. That's what little-brained Chuck Schumer is thinking. But for people like me, and maybe for most of you, we love the idea that the damn bill should be read out loud. And if it's so inclined that you would like to know, you can watch it and listen. We even get the transcript. Oh, hey, how about this? This is crazy. Read the bill. But he tried this 12-hour delay to delay the bill passage. That worked out great, Chuck. He called it a radical bill, Chuck Schumer. He's such a stranger to radicalism, right? Rushed through the dead of night to hide its impact from Americans. That's what he's claiming. Well, Democrats unified in opposition argue that the bill redistributes wealth to the rich while cutting safety nets. Same tune, right? Different day. Ron Wyden calling Medicaid cuts a death sentence for green energy and rural health care. I really wish somebody in the media who has access to these people would say, could you expound on that? Could you tell me, how do you mean that? How is that going to happen? Nobody asks, what is that thing? That's the follow-up question that nobody asks. So the bill heads back to the House. Now, it passed narrowly last month, 215 to 214, but then the Senate changes, like the SALT cap in Medicaid tweaks, is going to face opposition back in the House again, especially from blue state Republicans. So with this razor-thin House majority, GOP leaders need near unanimous support to reconcile differences and meet Trump's July 4th deadline for a signature. Now, Trump's not going to go crazy if he doesn't get it by the 4th. I think Trump just likes the symmetry of that and passing, which would be one of the biggest pieces of legislation, I mean, both physically in 940 pages, but also its impact into the economy and life affecting us, would have in the history of the government, the history of this country. So I think on the birthday of our 249th birthday, I think he would like the poetry of that, I think, is what he'd like. But it doesn't, nothing goes away, doesn't change anything. He just would like to see it all line up. just like Joe Biden wanted the withdrawal from Afghanistan on the 20th anniversary, which, of course, he put all those soldiers at risk, losing 13 lives for the most disastrous military operation in our history. So that, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, folks. Well, the political and public fallout of this, though, right now, the CBO estimates that the bill will add 3.3 to 3.9 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. But you know what? Markets reacting positively. And then critics are going to warn of these long-term fiscal damage. Isn't it interesting? It just constantly seems that these economists just never get anything right when it comes to Trump. They just can't seem to pull that together. Now, the bill's passage is a big win for Trump's agenda. Again, not passed. It's got to go back to the House. We get that. Yeah, the Trump train's on its way, man. But it's a divisive, but divisive cuts in debt impact does make it a lightning rod as the House vote is going to loom over us now. And where's public opinion on this? Split across income and demographic lines? Of course, the left always wants us to be split according to class income. They always need the big boogeyman out there. But the Senate's passage of Trump's big, beautiful bill with J.D. Vance's tie-breaking vote is a huge win for the GOP. But it's also a power gig. With massive tax cuts, border security boosts, deep Medicaid cuts. But again, that's fraud and waste. They're not taking grandma's pills away, guys. And it's a bold step forward. So you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That's how you get into the studio for two-way talk and conversation today. He'll get you set up. Don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Pierce in the studio in real time. When we come back, I'll be joined by the latest and newest senior fellow at the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. Yes, the same one I'm a senior fellow at. Scotty Hughes will join the conversation as we welcome her aboard the Frontiers of Freedom, and we welcome her to, of course, the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. All right, folks, we'll be back in 2 and 10. Stick with us.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 495. The course came through the winter grade and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eddie Arus with the Vascular Care Group. If knee pain is making everyday activities feel like a struggle, and you've been told your only option for relief is major surgery, think again. Genicular artery embolization is a non-surgical outpatient treatment that can dramatically reduce pain and improve mobility. It targets the inflammation that's causing your arthritis knee pain, and best of all, is performed right in our office. To learn more about living the pain-free life, visit thevascularcaregroup.com with offices in Worcester and Sturbridge, Massachusetts.
When you find yourself in a corner, you need someone who's got your back. Describe.ai is a natural language search engine that provides access to legal research when you need it the most. Powered by AI to help humans search more than 3 million judicial summaries in both English and Spanish. This app is completely free because access to justice is this company's why. Visit Describe.ai to find the case law that has your back. That's DESCRYBE.ai.
Divorce and remarriage. It's a controversial subject clearly addressed in the Bible. Each weekend, Pastor Ray McMahon shares the truth of God's Word on the unbreakable covenant of marriage during the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast. Don't miss this opportunity to learn God's instructions by listening to the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast each weekend on this station.
Tune in every Sunday at noon.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment here on the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here in AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And, of course, you can always text us on our text line at 617-297-8388. And as promised, joining me in our virtual studio, Scotty Neil Hughes. Hey, Scotty, welcome to the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Oh, we don't check your mic path or what have you there.
You know what?
There
we go. Much better. You know, I'm so honored to be here on such a big day. And not only are we sitting here during the week of independence, but as you point out in your last segment, I got to hear this big, beautiful bill. Joe.
Crazy.
940 pages long is a bill. I mean, that sounds like my credit card statement from last month, by the way. So
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that surprising. But I have to tell you, as Republicans, as conservatives, and I'm as conservative as you get, you know, we're $37 trillion in debt as a country right now. So I can understand why there's hesitations and there's praises on both sides of the Republican aisle, the GOP, for this 940-page long bill.
And the fact that, I don't know if you caught this, because when you joined, but, Schumer thought, I'm going to delay this because, he's a genius, right? So 12-hour reading of the bill, I love it. I think every bill should have to be read before they vote on it because, come on, they're not reading the darn thing. They're counting on their aides or their party leaders to tell them how they are voting on this, by the way. So read it.
Yeah, but I have to say, I do love the soundbite of the Pennsylvania senator, Democrat, Republican. I don't know what he is these days, Fetterman, coming out and complaining how he's missing his family's beach trip because Congress is having to read the bill. Schumer's making them, his own party's making them have to read the bill.
Senator, you're welcome to resign and go to the beach full time if you'd like.
I'm glad to hear he still has a family. I mean, let's just say they've kind of disappeared. They've been incognito these past few months. Not like I complain much. I feel like he's been a nicer guy. But I agree with you. But I have, the real staunch conservative side of me goes, I thought one of the things that separated the Republicans, conservatives from the Dems, the conservatives from the neocons, is that we like clean bills. We like simplifying. There's nothing simple about a 940-page bill, even if Trump is the person
and dozens of amendments. Yeah.
Why can't we just do simple issue by issue appropriation?
Up and down on issue on its own merit. That's it. I agree 100% on that. Let's take a moment to explain to people and introduce you to the audience here in the Boston and New England market. Scotty, you have been in the media business for quite a while. Why don't you give us a little rundown? And some of our listeners might remember seeing you on CNN and Fox and Newsmax and News Nation you're on now. A lot of things. Why don't you just give us a little bit of the background? And you were a Trump surrogate way back when.
I am an original OG Trump surrogate, there's no doubt. But before that, I've been involved in I'm one of those that was raised right on the I was born as a ditto head. Both my parents on all of our road trips had Rush Limbaugh. So I learned from the grandfather of talk radio. I grew up after I graduated with a broadcasting degree from the University of Tennessee. I realized I immediately went into broadcast news, but was pulled over into talk news, talk radio within the first year, knowing that it is the best way to literally tap into what is going on for America with the people of America, not the politicians, the people. And
it's the original interactive media. Talk radio, because we can go back decades, the beginning of the 20th century, when people could call into radio stations. And yes, sure, social media is taking a new turn, but talk radio is the original social media.
100%. And I remember thinking, going down Radio Row at CPAC, and I'm forwarding this a little bit, in 2011, 2012, and there was a couple of these podcasters. In fact, people like Larry O'Connor with Breitbart had started doing this, where you were going to live stream it on Al Gore's internet. And we were all like, okay, that's ridiculous. Talk radio. And now, but what I don't think the American people understand when it comes to podcasting and talk radio, if you don't have talk radio, If you do not have that successful right now, our country will crumble. Freedom will crumble. Because you cannot censor. If you take away the power of the airwaves, and there was this huge movement, and it really scared me about 15 years ago, and it still continues when they were taking AM dial off the car radios. That move, understand, it had nothing to do about making it more, more modern. No, it was about taking away the right that you had to hear the truth being spoken. Because talk
Hillary
radio
wanted
consistent.
to put people in the stations, and if we didn't have talk radio in the internet now and the alternative, it would be the Ministry of Truth. It would be very Orwellian. I mean, it would literally be in the Ministry of Truth, where reality was what the Ministry of Truth decided it was going to be. And
Joe, you're
Like
correct.
that.
And I'm going to take a next step further, and I'm not just saying because I'm on your show, because I'll say it consistently, and I'll say it directly into Sean Hannity's television show Face. In fact, I think I didn't make me very popular, but it's not only just talk radio, the national syndicate, it's the local talk radio, because that I have seen time and time again. If you want to get changes done in your state, in your city, it's going to happen with the motivation of the local talk radio and the listener. Those are the folks that are going to make the difference when it comes to issues that affect you day by day. So, even and I say my peak, I hope I'm not there yet, but even when I was on every network, Trump surrogate, CNN, introducing Trump, people were like, why are you taking time to go talk to the AM station in Boise, Idaho? Why are you going to Fargo, North Dakota? Because those are the people that actually make the difference. Because if they're taking the time out to listen to local talk radio, they actually care about this country and their community.
Well, I think that when you talk directly to talk radio listeners, you basically have already weeded out the non-voters, because people who don't go vote aren't tuned in to guys like me, women like you. They're not. The people who do, to your point, take the time to tune in and listen and follow shows, they're going to the polling place that day. And I suspect they're probably also the people who do the vote of the election day and not mail-in ballots, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the other part of this is I want to welcome you aboard the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. Great to have you aboard there. And about 3 years ago, that invitation was extended to me, and founded by Senator Wallop back in the day, good buddy of Ronald Reagan, and it just it gives me a reason to get down to DC on a regular basis.
Hey, like you actually need a reason to go to DC. Most people try to avoid. In fact, I think I lost a little bit of respect for you that you wanted to go to DC. I'm just kidding. You have to go deal with the Beltway every once in a while. But I think to your point, before we leave the talk radio, I'm saying this because this is my introductory speech I usually give. There's a reason why left talk radio has not existed, and it fails every time they try to do it.
Always fails.
Unless it's government subsidized, and thank gosh for Kerry Lake stepping in and defunding that, it will not survive, because obviously it's low information voters that listen to left-wing talk radio.
There's always also the risk that they might say something out of the bubble, out of the narrative, and that just you see them short circuit, right? If you start to see them talk about this stuff. I want to go back to what you said about I hope you're not at the peak. This is the one industry I've found, because 40 years in this business, is it's a business you can continually reinvent and come back. And I remember as a young guy starting out, where I accidentally ended up as the news director of a 1,000-watt station. And it was because I met the owner on a Thursday, come in to intern, right? No pay. You know how this works. Mm-hmm. And I get there Friday morning early, like 45 minutes before I was supposed to be there. And the morning guy says, hey, the owner fired the news director yesterday. That woman you met, she's gone. You're the news guy. You go on at 6. So that was my introduction into talk radio 40 years ago at a small 1,000-watt station. And I was told by the veterans back then, man, is, there's only like 100 of us, and we just keep moving around. Mm-hmm. And so whoever you meet on the way up, you're going to meet on the way down. You're going to have to fire somebody, but you're going to have to ask that same person for a job somewhere else. Right. And that has proven to be so true in this industry. It's such a unique industry, broadcasting and talk radio specifically on that. So welcome to the Frontiers of Freedom. And do you have big plans for joining us?
I always have big plans, no matter what the organization that I'm a part of. But in this case, once again, it's just to continue to grow. I want to make sure that the American people are reassured there are organizations, especially like Frontiers of Freedom, that are there to fight to preserve your freedom. I think so many times you hear, the ACLU becomes this great big star, and you have Media Matters, and they get all of the headlines. I want to make sure the conservatives don't realize they're not alone in this fight, that there are organizations out there that are sincerely trying to back them up, that are going to push back, that have the resources to push back. So unfortunately, you find yourself alone on an island in a lot of these states. Now, I'm lucky I'm in Tennessee. I'm not alone. You can wear your MAGA hat around here and not worry about getting assaulted, maybe.
Or someone trying to rip it off your head.
Yeah, in your city. I would not necessarily go out there. I would, but the average Joe's not going to put on a Trump shirt and wear out. My kids go to a public school, and my son often wore his Trump shirt, that, daddy's home shirt, and my daughter has one too, and no problem. So that's, but I want to but that's because people have, I don't want ever as a conservative, even regardless of what demographic you are, to feel like that you are alone. And that's why, advancing, continuing to get the name out, grow the audience for everybody involved with the foundations, the Freedom Foundation is Frontiers of Freedom, is exactly why I wanted to join on.
I got to tell you, you made me think of something. So my next trip to DC, if you look behind me, there's a bunch of caps up there, other than the fedoras all over. Half of those up there, I don't know if you can see on the screen, and for our viewers as well, are various Trump hats, right? That over since 2016. And I think I will wear a Trump or MAGA hat on the plane out of Boston next trip, just because. Why not?
Just to see the reaction. Sometimes it's fun to trigger. I love it. I love to trigger leftists, and this is a bad habit that I think I've passed along to my children. One of my favorite moments was with Andrew Breitbart. And if your audience has been long time conservative, they'll understand. We were at CPAC in DC. It was It was literally the spring before he passed, and it was the first time that we really had gotten. He had just done his dog whistle speech, and you had the Media Matters group were outside protesting him, and he literally looked at me and he says, "You want to go have some fun?" I said, "Absolutely." And he went out there, did not skip a beat, and walked right in the middle of the crowd and said, "Okay, guys, come at me. What do you have for me?" That's what we as conservatives have to be not afraid to do. Sadly, we have a lot of politicians who can get afraid to do that. And we got to grow them back.
I got to tell you, I was saying to one of our fellow hosts here the other day, we were out for a bite, Jerry Doherty, who hosts Making Money Last Year, and I said that, when I got in this business way back when, all I heard for years as a news guy and a talk show guy was, "Oh, politicians suck. They, nobody tells the truth. Why can't anybody just not lie and say it?" Then Trump comes along, who tells it to you whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and they can't handle it and they can't stand it. So it's crazy that happens. But hey, folks, we do have to take our mid-show break here on the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back in 2 and 10.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement
We're still streaming live.
Meteorologist Vicki Graff, and here's your latest
audio,
Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN.
But this
After
is still
a warm and humid day,
on my
we are
social media
watching
platforms and stuff. So they can hear us. But I was going to tease. I didn't have the time to tease, but let's go to the Florida Alcatraz when we come back. I think your mic's off.
Okay. I was trying on a new microphone set with this, and I don't think it's going to work. So I'll just go back to the studio.
Are you using lavalier?
Yeah, I was, and it's not working on this computer. So I got to work on that. But it's obviously not good to work with you. Absolutely. In fact, I love, since they're calling it draft day. Have you seen the videos? It's on TikTok. The draft day, but it's the Gators. So they're going into the different. So I'm saying I drafted first, and they're showing the bigger Gator. Who your pick is. I'm all for it. I'm here for it. My biggest fear, though, is that we can talk about this. I went down to Gitmo. I was sent down as a part of a group of journalists to kind of counter all the bad information getting out about Gitmo. And I saw Gitmo. This was back in 2007. And I hope we're not setting ourselves up for another situation because we're on American property where you're going to have all these leftists and you're going to have all these tricks they're going to try to put in to totally sabotage the what's going on there. Personally, I think you should put them on a plane and put them right back to their country. Just say, don't pass go, don't collect $200, see you later.
Well, that is, I mean, unless you apply for asylum, due process is, oh, you're here illegally, let's fill out this paperwork, put you on a plane and get you back. That's actually the due process. All right, we're coming back. We got to do our, here, hold on.
For that special catered event in your home, at church, the temple, or a meeting house, Ziti's Restaurante, Speedway Plaza in Westboro. Ah, Ziti.
All right, folks. So welcome back to the second half of the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN or Radio Central, where you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Joining me in studio, virtual studio here, is Scotty Hughes, who has been in the broadcast industry, a Trump surrogate way back in the day. And absolutely, we're welcoming her aboard Frontiers of Freedom Institute, an organization I was invited into a little over 3 years ago, and we're looking forward to that and great things that are coming down the pike here with Frontiers of Freedom, the equestrian equine therapy with vets and those projects we're working on. We share about that a little bit. You ready to take a call?
Always.
All right. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phone lines. Tom's waiting patiently. Hey, Tom, what say you? Nope. No. Ted, do we have Tom on? Okay. They can get back to us, I guess, if the call comes in. I don't hear anything. Anyway, I wanted to move into, Ted, my producer will let me know if that's happening. I wanted to get into alligator Alcatraz. This is great. This happened fast, Scotty, right? I mean, I kind of heard about it, and then they're building it, and they're open today.
Which makes you wonder, did they already was it kind of like a prefab building? I mean, but it is Disney World. It's the land of Disney. It's the state of Disney. Maybe they can make magic happen. Fairy godmother.
I got to tell you, they put it up fast, but look, they were able to put up they put up a few of these immigrant things, in parts of New York, which of course then they promptly took down because they didn't like the food and they didn't like that they were too far away from the city and things like that. But if you have the inclination to do it, I think you can put it together this fast. But this is surrounded by Alligator Alley, which it's kind of medieval in the sense that, like the moats back in the day. Overall, what are you were saying on the break that you have some concerns about some of the shenanigans that might happen here?
I do, because, I was telling you that, back in 2007, I actually went, or 2008, I went over to Gitmo, was sent over there because there was such bad press around Gitmo. And let's just point out, once again, the ACLU, those lawyers will do anything they can to make a buck and to make conservatives look bad. I have a little fear, just because we've seen how much the left can twist and turn and make propaganda. I mean, we all have seen the AOC video just crying, it's the end of the world, at the chain link fence that we now know was
2014.
It was a parking lot. It was nothing. I'm fearful with this being actually on American territory that you're going to have various folks. And let me just point out, the first time that you do have one of these illegals, criminal as he might be, actually try to escape, and we get a video of a half mauled, it's going to be a PR nightmare, because they're going to use that to show just how inhumane the Trump administration and DeSantis is, and how dare they, take to this very barbaric way of security. So I'm a little bit worried about it, but I'm hoping that these folks will just be there for a minimum of like 48 hours or whatever it takes to ship them out.
They shouldn't be taking up residence out there. This should be a holding platform, a way station, if you will, on that. 508-871-7000. I think Tom is back. What say you, Tom?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Go ahead. You're on with Scotty too.
You were talking. Yeah. You were talking about alligator Alcatraz.
Yep.
It costs them hardly nothing to feed. You get the prisoners out there, hunt the alligators, turn that into alligator stew. They eat that down in Louisiana. And
have you ever had an alligator, Scotty?
I've had alligator cheesecake. I've had alligator stew. It's actually good.
Yeah.
It's better than chicken.
Yeah, I had it many years ago. It was fine.
It costs nothing to feed these guys. It wouldn't cost nothing to feed these guys. Also,
okay, so that went a different direction. I thought you started out saying that the alligators were going to be fed, but okay, I'm glad you went that way.
No. Hey, read some of the crazy stuff on the budget. If you can go through that budget, just give us a synapse, small synapse. Say, oh, they're spending $100 million for this, $50 million. See what's in this bill. All crazy stuff that the Democrats put in. See, say it on the air. Go. I'd have a couple dozen. Go right down. They're spending this. Like who was it? Rand Paul used to do. Wasn't he done that? He puts it out every year.
Yeah.
He puts out on the budget the crazy thing they spend on for other countries.
Yeah.
Do something like that. You'll get a lot of.
I agree with you because
I'll get out of here.
look when they started Doge started exposing USAID and the transgender comic books and operations in Guatemala and all those crazy things that we were putting out. Yikes. That's it. Tom, thank you for the call. Always appreciate it. Really do.
And to Tom's point, let me point this out, Joe, to you real quick. You're talking Marjorie Taylor Greene's great to follow on X. She's already laying it out. She's going back and forth. Here's my biggest fear. Don't call this conspiracy theory because there's no such things. Everything conspiracy comes true. I am very fearful that there's a lot of wasteful spending in this bill, a lot of that same fraud, hence why you've got Elon Musk threatening to start a third party and fully fund off of this bill, because I'm afraid it's going to be used as a noose around some Republicans' necks going into the midterms, because there's $9.9 billion for a Moon to Mars program in there. I need some schools built. I need some security. We need our wall. We couldn't find $5 billion to build the wall, and yet we're going to spend $9 billion to the Mars. Those sorts of things. I do fear, because we know not everybody's on the Trump team, even though they say they are. They're literally trying to do the horse, the old Greek horse, or Roman horse, the Trojan horse.
Trojan horse. Yeah.
I fear that you have a lot of these Trojan horses trying to ride this in. Trump's also riding the horse in, and they're going to try to destroy both the conservatives and the Trump legacy, potentially from using parts of this bill.
Yeah, absolutely. But a little more on this alligator Alcatraz, right? The James, what's the AG in Florida? Proposed Florida Attorney General Othamer or something. Yeah. Of course, backed by Governor DeSantis. So it opened today. And Trump was there. I don't know. Did you catch any of the live, broadcast of Trump there? He was taking questions like he always does. I mean, it's just, look, Trump, this is going to be the most transparent presidency in my lifetime. I mean, and probably ever. But he was taking all the various questions down there. The grand opening, if you're done. So it's designed to house up to 5,000 detainees for processing in deportation. So to your point, Scotty, this isn't meant to be housing, right? It's meant to be a processing center that you're there for maybe 48 hours or so.
Well, and this is in Florida too. It's not like this is Arizona. So you have to, for those that, I'm sure you get down to Florida a couple times, but the majority of illegals that are coming into Florida are not coming from Mexico. You're going to find Cuban, Puerto Rico,
Well, of course, Puerto Rico's a territory, so I mean they can just take a plane
on that side, but they might not be legal citizens. What I'm saying. You're going to see Venezuelans.
Oh, you're using Puerto Rico as the enter point,
right? Yeah. You're Venezuelans. There's a lot of Venezuelans in South Florida. So we're not dealing with the same sort of illegals that we're seeing in California, Arizona, unless they purposely come back over, that area. They're dealing with more, like I said, the Cuban and the real South American refugees that are seeking refuge. So it's a little bit different from, I think, even what the Californians are dealing with.
Yeah. So the overall, I think we both agree that this is a pretty good idea because, again, we're using something that's been abandoned, been sitting there. Right. And Trump is great at this, right? Anything to do with real estate development. Look what he's talked about when they'd say, oh, we got to build in his first term, I remember conversations about we have to build an embassy and it's going to cost. And he'd say, well, wait a minute. Isn't there a building already built and vacant anywhere in this country? Can't we just go there? Wow, security and all this. Well, go through it. You know, we know how to sweep a place. Go through this. So we've got Governor DeSantis. He was on Fox and Friends this morning. He emphasized its security, right? He's saying that the escapes would face a lot of alligators, and called it very cost-effective way to support Trump's mass deportation agenda. And Carolyn Levitt doubled down, stating the alligators and the pythons. Let's not forget the snakes, Scotty. Pythons are a deliberate deterrent for illegal murderers and rapists trying to escape. So they have doubled down and committed that we know exactly what's surrounding this, and it's purposeful.
We know this. Well, the residents know it. Let's make sure that the residents
they understand where they are. I hope that when they get there, there's a big map and a chart, and they show them where you are, and you're 30 miles plus from anything around you, and it's swamp, and it's loaded with gators, alligators, crocodiles, only place that both exist, and pythons.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Why aren't we doing this with the criminals that are American? Why don't we take the child rapists, the pedophiles, the murderers? Let's build another jail out in the middle, and let's put all the pythons. I mean, there is a reason back in the 1800s where they would take a horse thief, and I'm not advocating this, but they would hang him from the bell tower in the center of town. Why? To deter others from making that same mistake. Let's do this, because right now, in some of the, I'm not saying they're, 5-star hotels, but in some of our prison systems right now, let's actually deter people from committing crimes. And you do that by showing them they're not just going to get this blank check of being taken care of and coddled. Put them out in the middle of Alligator Central. Put the pythons around them. Show them that you're going to have to live with mosquitoes the size of cardinals.
Well, I mean,
tell me if you're going to do that.
We're calling this, or they are calling this, Alligator Alcatraz, because the original Alcatraz, which Trump trolled with the reactivating Alcatraz, because it's in the so if you can get out of there, you have sharks and you got to make the swim. But I think Alcatraz actually makes quite a bit of money in tourism. So, I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense there. But I get that. That if you did this for American prisons, Scotty, you're going to get, lawsuits about family can't visit and all of that kind of stuff. But deterrent is, to me, the key, whether you're talking about deterrent for crime and criminals or illegals entering. I have always said this, I've maintained this over and over, folks. You got to take away all the incentives. If an illegal comes in the country and they find that they can't rent an apartment, they can't buy a car, they cannot get a job, because we crack down on the employers who cannot hire illegals. So if they can't have any money, they're not allowed to take it. They're not on welfare. Obviously, if they have a medical situation, we're human. We're going to address it. But they don't have anything or anywhere to go. My grandparents all came here with sponsors, money, a bank account, a job waiting, and they had to check in with the local police department every 30 days. We have to take our third and final break here, folks. So stick with us. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. Back in 10.
Looking for a fuel and food stock?
Gitmo.
Here we go, back on.
At Gitmo, we actually had lawyers coming after the American soldiers that were there, because they were making them, one of the forms of punishment was giving them a ham sandwich for the day. And lawyers were saying, no, they can't eat. That's against their religion. You have to give them kosher. And that was just how picky. And that's my fear with this, is you're going to have those same lawyers going, because those cages are pretty scary looking.
Well, I was going to get into, and I'll try to work it in when we come back out of the break, is when illegals that are here, they were hit with two things. They saw Cisco there, the Venezuela, was it not Venezuela? The prison, the tough one. Where was it that we had the contract with?
Not Alcatraz.
No, the one we flew them down to in the
El Salvador.
El Salvador. That one,
yes.
I saw what they
El Salvador, they saw that prison, right? 5 bunk beds high and all this stuff. And then he took that Border Patrol app, turned it around to self-deport. We've had 1 million people self-deport themselves. That's a lot. That hasn't cost us a dime. I think we give them $1,000 card or something.
Right. To fly back on.
Yeah. So it costs us like $4,700 to fly somebody back versus $17,000 to arrest them and hold them.
At the same time, I do see that I am empathetic to the people who are legitimately here, that have been here, that have tried to, our immigration system is broken. Republicans and Democrats don't want to.
All right, we're coming back. Sorry.
Well, we can go with it. Absolutely.
You navigate these minefields. Just contact Phil at philgeorge@charter.net for a free consult.
All right, welcome back here to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the remainder of this hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Joining me in our virtual studio, Scotty Hughes, who is an original Trump surrogate, media personality, talk show host, and now adding to that CV, senior fellow at the Frontiers of Freedom Institute down in D.C., the same one I belong to, and we're looking for great things to happen with the Institute over the next few years. We've got some good projects going on. But it was interesting. I wanted, because there are a couple other things I wanted to slide in before we got out of here. We've got Byron York and Iran, Jake Tapper's just, that guy's still on the air, because we have this communist who's now, by the way, officially, right, they did the count, the swearing, so officially Mamdani is the Democratic candidate for the general election as of today, even though, Cuomo made the concession and all that, but they have to do the just like we do with certifying. So they did it. So he is officially the candidate. Did you catch any of Trump's interview today from Alcatraz, Alligator Alcatraz? Because they were asked him about that.
No, but I'm sure you have a clip because you have an amazing producer.
I don't have the clip. It's just, I thought it was funny that he said, they asked him, he said,
he'd have him arrested.
Pardon me?
He'd have him arrested.
He had resident? Didn't this Trump question about whether this guy is a resident, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about your volume just dropped a little bit. That's all. It was hard to hear. So they said, the Trump should deport him, but they said, he's a communist, and he said, what if he said he's not going to allow ICE in, and he's a communist, and Trump said, oh, well, we just arrest him. It's like, whoa, that's going to get a little fodder, right? It's just to send in the bulldog, right? Tom Homan in on this thing. I don't know. Do you want to go? We got a couple of minutes. You want to go to Jake Tapper or Byron York?
Let's do Jake Tapper.
Okay. I don't know why that just came up.
I'll always talk about Jake. I don't even call him a friend. Speaking of Cuomo, I'm in the Chris Cuomo camp when it was at CNN. People don't understand.
My producer's saying your volume's. Let me try. Try again. A little louder.
Oh, that's interesting. Am I back?
Yep,
good.
Better.
Maybe it's Jake Tapper in my computer. I was never a Jake Tapper fan. They had different, people don't understand it, but news networks are the same thing as like any other, like middle school. You have your cliques. And I was always seen as a part of the Wolf Blitzer / Andrew Cuomo or Chris Cuomo crowd. And so Tapper and I never really got along, and I'm not going to get along with him on this. He let it completely pass about the Biden administration. He knew Joe Biden should not have been in office. We all knew. That's what's so great about this. He's making money off a book that the majority of us could have written 2, 3, 4 years ago about it.
Oh, I think it's absolutely disgusting that the members of the media was in on this, folks. They were part of the cover up, whether, and I've talked about this in the past, Scotty, you don't need to have a secret meeting in a back room and a secret handshake or anything for it to be a conspiracy. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And the media knew we can't point out, we certainly can't ask any questions about Joe Biden just tipping over, sitting there with a bike or falling up Air Force One or wandering off in the garden or don't know what the hell we're talking about, because we collectively understand, without having to meet to talk about it, that we don't say anything or do anything that would make Donald Trump either look good or come out positive, that we've got to go along with this. So every member of the media, and I think that, look, the fact that we had a absentee president, right, who declined, we got the RoboPen thing going on, who is really organizing, orchestrating, and signing this stuff off, or authorizing the signature on the pen, RoboPen. But the other story is the fact that the media, and I think it was during the Donaldson files, I brought that up, as far as the media is gone, or as it should be. And every member of the media, and there's a few that were, some people on Fox, Newsweek, Newsmax, things like that. I mean, they were saying it, and we were getting attacked for it, me included. And you look at that and say, you have no journalistic integrity left. You can't say anything, because until you apologize and explain yourself, and we know what you did. We know what you did. We know why you did it, but you need to say it. It's like, yes, the first step is you have to admit. All right, that's the first step in this 12-step program that you got to go through. So they've got to do this, and they're not doing this. And now Tapper is apparently he's making money, because people are buying it, right? So they do want to read it, but it's a joke that he's coming out with this now. Especially, do you remember the interview with Laura Trump? Mm-hmm. How he attacked her for saying this, and I guess he did reach out and I don't know if he apologized or just acknowledged he was a jamoke.
Well, we've always
apologized.
He really never has apologized. I call this liberal guilt. You always hear this is your white guilt speaking out. This is the liberal guilt speaking out as to why they're buying their book. But let me tell you how it works, Joe. We have this thing called freedom of the press in America. It's constitutionally guaranteed. So what we saw under the Biden administration, we've seen it even underneath Republicans as well, is that the president can come out. He doesn't have to respect anybody's freedom of the press. Very rarely will you ever actually see him say, I'm shutting you down. Maybe not this president, but previously, where he's actually made people go out of business. That would be called breaking the law, freedom of the press. But what you don't, it's the colleagues. You get your colleagues to put the pressure on. The White House Press Association, whether you get invited to go to an Emmy, you get a Nobel, you get a press prize. It's the colleagues that suppress your voice. So if you don't go along with their narrative, they are going to isolate you, and you will eventually be frozen out of the entire media system.
And you're not going to get the cocktail party invitation, the Christmas party invitation. You're not going to be part of the in crowd, a very high school cliquish type.
Or they're going to turn on you, and they're going to try to go after what your values are, and they're going to go after your integrity. They're going to say that you're the one that's paid off. They'll even I've even seen them trick good journalists and make them demonize them and be the fall guys, the sheep. So then the government can say, we're not trying to suppress the press. We're not trying to take away your freedom of speech, but it's happening, and it's been happening for the last 30, 40 years.
Well, we also had, under the Biden administration, again, every time I reference the Biden administration, let's going forward, everybody understand, Biden administration, or those that were in the intersanctum of actually controlling things, look what they did with the Hunter Biden laptop. And they had FBI agents on staff at the former Twitter, right? X, or then was Twitter. And then what they were doing with Facebook, where they were literally sending memos and had those Tuesday meetings, and we're telling them with emails that have now been exposed that you need to deplatform this person, shadow ban this person. You got to take that down. As that was happening, I've talked about this because people argue, well, they're a private company and they can do what they want. No, there's something called color of law, or under the color of law. And when the federal government is applying pressure or paying the salaries of people that are posted in these social media headquarters, you've brought the government in. They are now under the color of law. And that means the government is actually censoring and is taking down things or stopping people from spreading their voice. What they did to the New York Post is disgusting. One of the oldest newspapers in the country. We couldn't even share that link back in the day. Much less let them post the story out, and they took them off. And then they took a president off of line. Why do we let this stand, Scotty? Why isn't there a bigger revolution about this? Or are we doing it through the stop listening to mainstream media and just going to the alternative media?
And that's what's happening. That's the only way to do it. You know, to bring this full circle to how our conversation started. It was sort of like what they were doing for talk radio. The president knew, Biden knew, even before that, Obama knew he could not take you off air legally. That would be obviously suppressing freedom of the press. But what he could do is put pressure on your sponsors, the people that actually pay the bills, that keep the electricity running, that keep your airwaves going. And he could put the pressure on GM. He could put the pressure on various sponsors that were known talk radio entities. Let me remind folks, Rush Limbaugh was one of his biggest sponsors was GM and Chevrolet. He told everybody to go buy a Suburban in 2008. Guess what? I went and bought a Suburban in 2008 because I thought they were a conservative company. A couple $1 million of bailouts later, I realized that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Yeah, remember who didn't take that bailout money? What car dealership?
Which one?
Ford,
yes.
Ford had $92 billion laying around in a bank account, and Ford said, we're good. We don't need to, because it came with strings. And Ford said, we don't need the strings. We're good. We got plenty of cash. We're Ford, for Christ's sakes. We're good. And and then, of course, all this the strings went with the GM money and Chrysler and all that.
But that just brings the full circle of how the government still is able to limit, sequester the freedom of the press, be able to enact, to do it. They're very creative. And so people just have to be well aware of it. And the rebellion we're seeing is going to, the alternative media options.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just that the thing that happened with it was Adams, and I wanted to get this in before we ended. During a CNN interview, Mayor Eric Adams, Jack Tapper questioned claims about Zoran Mamdani's praise of Hamas. And of course, he came back and said, when did he praise him? I don't recall him ever praising him. And Adams pushed back, citing several videos. The thing is, once again, the point of this is, Tapper, how does he have this job? He is not well informed. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and he doesn't practice good ethical journal principles. Where did this guy come from?
Which makes him the king of the rooster. I mean, come on now, king of the hen house. There, you're not gonna sit there and
cock of the walk, I think, is what they call it.
Cock
right?
of the walk, whatever catchphrase you want to give it. That's what makes him so good at it, because they know he can read a teleprompter, and whatever they put in that teleprompter, he's going to read. And that's.
Do you remember the
powerful.
movie News Radio?
Mm-hmm.
Which was it? The actor, not a Baldwin. It was. One of the actors, and that was the whole thing about the movie, right? He had the tip about sitting on the back of your jacket, and he was handsome and he looked good. Moron. And he was being fed everything in his earpiece and on the teleprompter. There you go. Right there. Look, we're coming up to the end of the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Scotty Hughes, thank you for joining me. Welcome to Frontiers of Freedom. Do you want to roll any social media platforms, or where can people find or
just follow me on X at Scotty N. Hughes. I'm still a fan of Elon Musk, regardless of his bromance supposedly being over the Trump, which I don't truly believe. And Joe, thanks for having me, and I hope you'll have me back on soon.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. That's going to wrap up this show. Of course, we've got a couple more shows tomorrow, Thursday, 4th of July, weekend coming up. So have a great rest of your day, folks. But this will conclude the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Back tomorrow, folks. Joe out.
Stay tuned for the Frankie Boyer Show.